Good morning and welcome to the program Perspectives. This morning, Perspectives will be looking at call for constitutional and electoral reforms. Yes, we'll go back to when we've been having elections. Some people have said that elections in this country have been made by, not taking care of some issues. But again, we're having the National Conscience Party, which is called on the National Assembly to, as a matter of urgency, pass the electoral bill in the first at the first sitting in 2021. We do know that Anambra State is the state we're looking at for the next election that will come. We've had Ondo, we've had Edo, and they've all come out well. And so the need to have the National Assembly to pass electoral bill at the first seat. My guest by phone this morning, Dr. Yunus Tanko, is the chairman of the National Conscience Party, was also a presidential aspirant in the just 2019 elections that we had. Dr. Yunus Tanko, good morning and glad to have you on the show.
Good morning, Kadalite. Good morning, Nigerians.
Yeah. Let's start this way. Dr. Yunus, we've been having elections, and the call has always been to have a credible election, fair and credible elections, and for all sides to go home happy with the turnout of the elections. But we've not been able to stabilize or to get it right with elections, and we want to be looking at issues of concern on having free and fair, credible elections. For you, what are you seeing from this angle?
Okay, quickly. There are various documents that help to guide electoral and democratic processes in Nigeria, and indeed all over the world. They have their own documents. Adherence and obeying these documents is number one, is very important. And what are these documents? Number one, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended in 1999, that's good, that's one. Two, you have the constitution of the political parties themselves. Then they have the manifestos. Then the Electoral Act, which is subject of discussion at this moment. And there are other guidelines and bylaws that the party may fix as they progress in their democratic life. At the moment now, where we are having a problem is as regard to some of the issues that erupted from the Electoral Act. This gives room for all kinds of democratic malfeasance that we have seen all over the country, i.e., with regard to the issue of funding. Two, with regard to issue of political nomadism, some call it political prostitution. You see a gentleman today, he belongs to a political party, and the next day he belongs to another political party, and this happened especially during the period of electioneering. Probably when one of them might have lost his primaries in one political party, he finds it very easy to pick up the ticket of another political party. And that is not morally right, neither is it democratic. But because our laws give room for all of this, it happens, and that makes the whole thing look so stupid. Unfortunately, thank God the election in Edo turned out right, but you could see the switch from one political party to another, back to another political party, going to another political party, confusing the electorate as it were. Not only that, it reduces the interest of people who have worked so hard online, queuing, building the political party, in which then the ticket will then be taken over by another individual who feels he has the power and the financial capacity to take over that ticket, and that is not correct. Then we talk about the issue of registration of voters. If you look at the system, for example, in Ondo, they have about 1.8 or 1.3. I'm not so sure of the vote in there, but I know it's about 1.something million registered voters. And even after the national, the federal election for the presidency, we have over 88 million registered voters. But at the end of it was 30 point-something million voted. Now, what it simply means is that 30 million people decided who becomes the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And at the end of it all, it was only 15 million that the president got as a winning point, leaving about 11 million for the other political parties to share. Now, when we look at that particular position, calculating it, I'm not too a mathematician, but when we talk about 15% of the population of about 200 million, that's very meager. That means that there is an undecided voters, or those who did not vote, about 50 million of them did not vote. You can imagine that's voters' apathy. And the truth about it is that some of them really are moving from one point to the other, trying to look for their daily survival. And so when they register in a polling station, they have to vote in that polling station. They cannot go back. They find it sometimes difficult to go back to that polling station. Maybe they are working in Kano and election is taking place in Akwa Ibom. Before the person can move, it becomes difficult. And of course, INEC has provided this issue of saying you can transfer your registration from point A to point B, but it is actually difficult. So what we are saying in essence is that there must be a system in which if you register in Kano and you are an Akobamite, if you want to vote for a candidate in Akwa Ibom, you can be able to vote in Kano, and your vote should reflect on the voting system in Akwa Ibom. That is how democracy has advanced to. And we must be able to look at this particular issue of registration of voters so that the population that votes will replicate at least above average of the total population of the nation. That is not fair than to you to have just 1/4 or less than 1/4 of the total population deciding who is a full quota. If you understand what I mean. So going forward, there is a proposal being already been made by INEC with regard to the issue of having electronic voting system, which will help the Nigerian population, just like what we have in terms of transferring of money, TM and the rest of them. Of course, people kick against it and probably there will be a lot of fraud in it. But of course, if it is being checked very well, just like what we saw in the last election in Edo and Ondo from INEC, at least INEC has been able to prove that it is workable with using that their Z-pad. That what you vote at the voting station, immediately you are voting, you are seeing the total number, you are seeing the number of what you have voted, and it's reflecting in the portal. So it tells us that it is possible for us to have an electronic system that will encourage people to come out and besides, all those rich men and comfortable people who do not come to the polling station and yet decide the fate of those who become the governor and then the people that they govern, and then they can now easily vote in their living room and feel more comfortable than them staying back in their houses and then igniting all kind of violence and all others that we have seen over the years. So these are some of the issues that has arisen from this particular demand for an electoral act, which ought to have been passed long ago, so that we can use the Anambra state election as a litmus test to kind of see if we can perfect the system before we come to the 2023 election. That is why we are calling fervently that the National Assembly should take a cue and decide quickly as possible and work on this electoral act and pass it so that Mr. President can sign it into law, and so that we will not have a repeat situation where the electoral act has been worked on and very close to the election, and then Mr. President will say, no, I will not sign this electoral act because it is close to election. So let us do it now for the benefit of the people, so that our electoral system and democratic processes can be strengthened in such a way that people will have more confidence beyond Odo and Endo, so that people will now have confidence in the system and even want to come out and contest. And I must say, 2023 from 2021 is going to be a very tedious and very robust and interesting electioneering year for the Nigerian people.
There's so much call, and so much pressure on the National Assembly to, pass the electoral bill for, the president's accent. Before 2019 elections, there were calls like this, that if we could have the reforms, introduced and, of course, the electoral bill passed, it could have done so well, give credibility to the elections of 2019. For you now, do you in a way throw suspects on the National Assembly if it delays, so that we can use this to see how the Anambra elections turns out?
No, what we are saying is that since that we are at least assuming, say that we can say we have started early. We have 2023, we're in 2020 at the moment now, maybe about a day or so, and then we have 2021, which is next year in a few days' time. That means that we have at least early 2021, first quarter of 2021, to deal with this issue of the Electoral Act. Getting Mr. President and signing it, bringing the document out and everybody reading it and understanding it. But my plea for this assembly people is to start thinking that, look, this law that they are going to pass, they shouldn't pass a law that they be thinking that let us protect ourselves, because most of the time when they do, they try to think about protecting themselves when they are on their feet. They forget that one day they will leave that seat. So what we are urging them to do is to produce a law that will stand the test of time. Whether you are in or you are out, that particular law protects everybody and gives us a robust democratic standing that everybody will be proud of. Look, we agree that democracy, some say the challenge is the best system of government, but at least it is participatory. That's one thing you cannot take away from democracy. Everybody have an opportunity to participate in the process. And so this process should be enhanced in such a way that whether you are enjoying it right now or whether you have lost out and you are still gathering momentum, at least you will have faith in the system. We have seen what is happening in America, where the institutions are the ones reigning supreme. The political party, the individual, the candidate, and the people themselves are the ones deciding, because if we were to allow the individual to carry out his own personal interests, all will have crumbled in America. But at the moment now, we have seen that the institutions are the ones that do. So we have been asking for the institutions to be strengthened. And let's not forget, that is why we were calling also for INEC to be unbundled. Not because we don't like the face of INEC as it were now. No, because we want INEC to be more effective beyond what they have done. Thank God that Professor Mahmoud Yakub has really tried to put a lot of things in place and then trying to advance it. So now he has a better opportunity again to consolidate on the gains of Edo and Ondo. So therefore, if INEC, for example, is being unbundled to like 3, we have suggested that INEC should have just the Electoral Monitoring and Election Commission, which would just be saddled with the issue of, election only, preparing for election, how to perfect the election and nothing more. Then we will have the enforcement agency, because at the moment now, INEC itself is overburdened with various litigation, one court to another, from one court to another. That caused distraction into a proper electionary preparation. So we are saying that we must have an enforcement election commission. That way, those enforcement elements will be dealing with anything that has to do with litigation, going to one court or the other, and then at the same time, punishment for those who have found it interesting to use election as their way of survival by causing mayhem and all. So when this thing is put into place, you will see that there's enforcement or punishment being given to those who are being caught in election malpractices and all. Because we want to reduce our election only to be decided at the polling station, not in the court of law. It's actually undemocratic, because we are forced to go to the court of law for deciding disputes. Because if the election were free and fair and clean, you don't need to go to any court. Just wait again and try your own opportunity. That is how democracy is going on. Then the third one is the Delineation Commission. The Delineation Commission, of course, many may not understand. What delineation means is that as we go, the population grows. Or when we are moving from one place to another, we develop some area. Like for example, I can remember in Kaduna, for example, there was infighting problem. People moved from south to north, from north to west, and then areas were being created. All those areas like Boningora and the rest of them in Kaduna, the Gachikun area, all of those ones, they don't have a kind of statutory voting point, polling booth. So delineation takes care of creation of polling stations, because at every polling station you can't have more than 500 voters. The other, when you have more than 500, what you now have voting points. So the Delineation Commission will take care of creation of other voting polling stations. And I think the National Population Commission and the Bureau of Statistics and other boundary commission, all of this one, we can pick some well-articulate and hard-working staff and form them into another commission that can take care of this delineation. So their work will be constantly on making sure that we have accredited, well-constituted polling unit, so that people can be sure that this is where they can vote, so that the issue of moving from one polling station to another and then stopping people from moving, it reduces the vote. So that one can help in taking care of us, for having at least no more of voters apathy. Because look, if I'm staying in the Gachikun, for example, and my polling station was in Kao at a point in time, and I want to vote, and the moment I know that they are going to stop me from going, I just sit down in my house and forget about the voting. That's what happened to majority of the voters. So these three departments or commissions must be enshrined in the Electoral Act to enhance the confidence and the solidification of our electoral process.
Well, Dr. Insa, INEC, as it is, Independent National Electoral Commission, and the question has always been asked, how independent is INEC? And again, looking at it from another perspective, the executive has always been the one, who chooses who to be, who to head, or who not to head. In this stance, do you suspect that these reforms too could also be looking at pleasing the executive, where the electorate should just, the legislature should be left to do its job properly?
The Justice Mohammed Uwais report did a 99.9% hard work on this issue, and then we have been agitating and advocating and even demonstrating that we need that Justice Mohammed Uwais report to be acted upon. Where it concerns ANEC, it also talk about this unbundling too, and I'm happy that Barrister Okoye, who was part of that particular committee, Systemic Committee, if I'm not mistaken, led by Justice Mohammed Uwais, is now a commissioner in INEC. And we have been talking as comrade and a barrister-in-law who have shown a lot of commitment during that period to help in putting together documents from INEC, sending it to the National Assembly for decision making. And I'm sure he has the capacity to do so. And what we are saying is this: look, let us open up the position of the INEC chairman. We should not leave it to the whims and caprices of the executive. Anybody can have the opportunity of leading this country. But the fact is that if the institution is not strong, it creates problems. And if you not have a very articulate and God-fearing leader in INEC, there will always be a problem and accusation of him probably flexing to one part or the other. And look at it clearly, sir. How can you justify that if I should select you, Tony Alabi, as my INEC chairman, and I give you an order, or more or less I tell you, you read from my body language, this is what I wanted. You must respect my decision or my suggestion, because I put you there. And that is the system in which we find ourselves. At the moment, it's the executive that decides and who becomes the INEC chairman. And of course, certain situations may happen that may not be palatable to the opposition. Even if it doesn't happen, the opposition will say it does happen, just to create confusion. So why give room for issues to be raised, to raise up, to be risen up in that manner? So in that case, the Justice Muhammad Ways request suggests that we should subject the selection of INEC chairman to a publication, giving criteria of the person that we want, and that criteria will be made public. People will apply, screening will be done, then 3 out of those particular individuals will be put in place, and decision will be making by the Judicial Council of the judiciary to decide, not the executive man, judiciary to decide on who among the 3 is qualified to take over the position. In that way, there will be a semblance of fairness. It's not one person that decided. The Judicial Council is different, and then they come in turns. They can move out, in and out. So the presidency, the executive has more hand in it. And then secondly, we also suggest that the funding that goes to INEC should not be subjected to any kind of screening at the National Assembly and all. Once it is being provided, just like any ministerial, it should be screened, of course, to check the cost and all of these ones. And then by that time, when you screen, it should be on the first line charge. It should be on the first line, so they don't go to any Tom, Dick, and Harry to beg for their allocation to be approved. Those ones will not end up using it that, look, I have done you a favor. So when my election comes, you will have to look the other side if I'm trying to manipulate the system. So you see, that's where we will make the Independent Electoral Commission independent as it's supposed to be. So, and then the period of appointment should be specified into at least a one-time tenure of 5 years or 6 years, as the case may be, looking at the time frame of our election, so that it will be a one tenure. That one tenure will enhance the person to perform, at least give his best within the first 6 years of all. Because as we are giving room for probably reappointment or no reappointment and all others. So people always do things that may favor certain levels so that their reappointment will be assured. But once you know that you have a one tenure term and that you have it and it's lengthy enough for you to do any good thing that you want to do, then the person will sit upright. That will solidify INEC and it will give it more semblance of fairness that everybody will be happy about.
You also, in having the electoral reforms, you're also talking about political nomadism. And again, what we know about democracy is that it gives one the right to associate or freedom to move to, where one wants. Is this not going in another way, going to be limiting one's freedom of association?
The freedom of association should be done in a fair manner. With all due respect, what we have is not that kind of a freedom of association that people are asking for. What we have is just usurping of the rights of other individuals in the political system, which is morally not right and unacceptable. The Electoral Act gives them that in case if you have a political problem in your party, somebody can now move into another political party. No. Now, how do you justify? I as a political party, as someone of a political party, have won election in Ekiti State. We won an election with one Benson. He was an NCP person. He won the election. But as the time goes on, he was separated from the whole. He was not given his room to perform. Other political parties, the one they are doing their own thing, they will segregate him and leave him alone, try to spike him in such a way. At the end of it all, they manipulated the system and forced this gentleman to have to change that from our political party to another. When we have struggled and worked hard and won election, and then he still maintain that his seat under the National Conscience Party. Is that fair? Or a governor who has sold the manifesto of a political party to his members in Derby in Kaduna State, and at the end of it all, he won the election under a particular party, setting the manifesto, which was the guidelines and the social contract that he has already with the people, and he won the election. Then he leaves the party at the eve of certain election and goes to another political party. What happened to the social contract in which he signed with the people? That is not correct. Totally unacceptable. Treasonable offense against the people. So what we are saying is that if you want to leave, we give you room to leave. Leave on time. If you want to leave as a governor or as a member of the House of Representatives or as a senator or as a member of the council or anything, leave the seat. Go out to another political party. Contest under that political party, and then they will either announce the seat vacant. I mean, probably the National Assembly and INEC, whoever is supposed to announce, they will announce the seat vacant. You go back to the political party you join, sell that manifesto again. Election should be taken, should be open. See whether you are going to win that election. That is how it is normally supposed to be done. So we are not against you moving, move, but leave the seat. The Electoral Act should take it as a very serious law that once you move out of the political party, you leave that seat. That will serve as a deterrent, and it will solidify and grow our politics. Other political parties that have been accused of lack of performance will seem to be performing, because they will present another candidate that may defeat that other person who has been on the seat for a long time. That is just what we are saying, and that will help in the democratic system. Not this one that we are easily crucifying the other political parties for saying that they are not performing, when we know that their money being used. People still hold on to the seat in which they have already lost or won under another political party. And just at the eve of the election, somebody will just move from political party A to political party B. Totally unacceptable. So the nomadism should be checked. In fact, it's supposed to be number one. If the National Assembly will be fair to everybody, cut down. If you want to join from that, even in the political party. It is not right. People have been working hard to build a political party contesting elections. Just at the last minute, you will just change and say, look, hold on, because you don't have the capacity, you don't have the money, please hold on, let this the former governor join us so that we can win elections. You see, that itself is political corruption and must be checked. And so, in that case, what we are saying is that if you join, at least give yourself 6 months to familiarize yourself with the new political party in which you have joined. Before you run for election, people are already there, working hard, staying there for almost how many years? And that is what really encourages political nomadism or political prostitution, which is inimical to the development of our democracy in Nigeria.
Okay, Dr. Eunice Tanko, we'll have to go for a commercial break now. I'll be back with you shortly.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Here's the program Perspectives this morning, and we're looking at the call of the National Conscience Party for the National Assembly to pass through bill at first sitting in 2021. Of course, Anambra elections just around the country, and of course to test if these reforms can play out in the Anambra elections before we begin to talk about 2023. And Dr. Eunice Tanko, Chairman, National Conscience Party, was also a presidential candidate in the last elections of 2019, sharing thoughts with us on the need for constitutional and electoral reforms. Doctor, again, we come back to a situation where our elections have also, Tegri has been part of the electioneering process that we have. How much concern would these reforms put on Tegri and the consequences of it on the political parties, or a political party that is involved in this?
That is why we are calling for that the other commission that will have to do with adjudication of punishment and whatever situation arising during electioneering. Because what we've observed is that, with all due respect, some of our security agencies and other created thugs are being used to cause mayhem in our electioneering processing. So the Enforcement Commission, as it were, will take care of all of this. So when people see that there is a punishment and they are being more or less like articulate and well efficient in the performance of their duty, people will start running away from creating all of these problems. So it is a big concern. And besides, the political parties themselves, need to checkmate the kind of people that run for election. And this winner-take-all syndrome, which is a key issue, must be looked into. The issue is that once a political party wins election, like we have seen now, we have the president winning with 15 million, and then there's 11 million votes belonging to or another candidate. But once he wins, he only takes care of his own interests of his own people, forgetting about the existence of the 11 million people. And that is wrong. So winner-take-all syndrome really affects and creates all of these social malfeasance that we have seen over the years. So we must govern for the interests of all, so that everybody will see that all of us are involved in governing after election. That way, it will reduce this particular kind of a vicious need to winning election, when you see people struggling, do or die kind of way of election. So in a way, it will reduce it, and then the enforcement agency or commission will take over from there and deal with any form of social malfeasance that must have happened during the period of election. Look, it is very sad for you to see in a polling station some people will come with vehicles and guns and be shooting in the air, dispersing voters and putting fear into the electorate to say that, okay, and at the end of it all, when you add the security problem, you say that a few thugs overpowered a number of policemen. It is very, very embarrassing for you to hear that kind of thing. And if there's no conspiracy, such a situation will not happen at all. You also hear people, when they are running for election, after selling their houses and their properties and all, they will come to run for election. They prepare three things. They prepare for payment of thugs, how to mobilize thugs from point A to B, or their neighboring governors supporting them and say they are bringing in these. I have these vicious guys who are very, very good and all. They will come and cause mayhem for you. So how can you even make that particular statement? The moment people hear that kind of thing, that person should be disqualified for such. If there's a credited information that such situation or person is mobilizing thugs to run for election, that person should be disqualified. And furthermore, you see people also preparing how to use money, bullion vans, to give people at polling stations. People marking about 1.5 million naira at polling stations, and it's publicly being said, and nobody is doing anything about it. And you expect a fair and fair election. The election has already been manipulated ab initio. So this kind of thing should be discouraged. Or you see a candidate preparing for the last three things in his mind, like, look, after I've already put the job, we pay the electorate, then the next thing you have to prepare for is litigation. It is not talking about free and fair election and winning the minds of the people. It's only talking about three processes of how to manipulate the system: thugs, paying the people electorate, and then looking for judges to help in confirming his crime. These are some of the things that happen in our election, and we must deal with it. And the enforcement agency commission should be the one responsible to take care of it, so that they will be more busy in dealing with such situations.
Well, Dr. Nisa, let me ask you this: how much has the electorate been able to take, control of their elections? I'm looking at it from the perspectives of the first coming of Barack Obama in the United States of America. We have this hashtag, yes we can, that we can do it, and all of that. It goes for the people. But I'm situating it here that for the second time of President Muhammadu Buhari, it was just about his person. It was about the Muhammadu Buhari, the party. Some people say came secondary. And so how should our elections go? Ownership, you've talked about winner takes all, but ownership by the electorate, how much of it have we seen?
You see, at the moment now, we have a very, very confusing and complex system that the electorate they don't trust the system in such a way that they will want to own the system. They don't believe in the candidate. Even the closest, which is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, did not go that freely to be candid with you, right from the primaries. He was not as smooth as a lot of people think it was. Money was involved. For those that know, will tell you. So, but that was the closest we've gotten to saying that owning the system. Yes, I agree. There are people who really love the president as an individual, you know, but there were money also being used to enhance such movements, even mobilizing the people from one point to another. So the people have not really gotten the trust of the electorate, of the candidate, to a point that they want to own the system. It's a vicious cycle. Unfortunately, that is the situation in which we find ourselves. A candidate will come, he will tell you what he's going to do or what he promised to do to the people. By the time he gets to the position and the electorate know this particular person, he may not have been in nobody, he doesn't have anything. But the moment you win, the next thing that you see him flying around with expensive cars, building homes and building fortresses around it. Then the electorate will start asking questions. And you'll be collecting money meant that will be used for the people. 15 million naira, 12 million naira as its own sitting allowance and all other things. Meanwhile, the electorate who voted for him are still struggling to get 30,000 naira as salary. So they look at it as, look, this is complete pure cheating. Pure cheating and manipulation of the system. They don't trust the candidate. They only know that when you win, you are only going to go and expand your lot and enjoy yourself at their expense. So what they do is that sometimes when you come to the election, they decide your fate. When you come, they will give you bills of what they want you to take care of. If they don't see you performing at an optimum level, at least for them, that way they have taken their first share of saying that, look, this is what we can hold on now that we are taking from this particular person. If they don't see it, you are not their candidate. And that is not helping our democracy. So the people want to see somebody who have shown fairness. If, for example, you are a candidate of a party, you won election, the moment they are giving you any money whatsoever, you still bring it back to your constituency and tell the people, look, this is what they gave and what they say we should do with it. What do you think we should do with it? And the people are seeing you been doing this on a continuous basis. They don't see you overflowing and using all kinds of words. Of course, there will be elevation from what you were before to what you are now. But the marginal elevation should not be too obvious that people will look at it and say, how come? They will even be the one that will help you if you are being sincere with them. That way, if you start building in that regard, people seeing the fairness from the elected person to the electorate, probably the ownership system will now start crippling in. Just like the way we used to see them in the PRP days, in Aminu Kano, Mahmoud Waziri, and the rest of them. People who are living humbly, not artificially. Today you see people on social media displaying total wealth, which they never had before. You see their wristwatches, you see their cars, in their garage, you see their homes, flirting with women, traveling to Dubai, going to another place, showing the collective wealth that's supposed to belong to the people to use in developing the people. So how would they want to trust the elected? The issue of trust has been broken, completely shattered. So that is where we are missing it. But we on the other side, we've been trying to encourage, and that's why many of us, like in the human rights circle, can't win elections. Because the trust has been broken by those other people. Nobody will trust you, no matter how good your English or your rhetoric is. Nobody wants to trust you. You just must bring the money. Where you get it, they don't care. And that is the situation with which we are finding ourselves. We just must find a way around it to stop this particular use of money. And you don't entirely blame the electorate, which has already elicited and amplified the reason why this situation of ownership becomes difficult. But in other ways, that is the only way we can do it. In America, where you started the issue of Obama and all, the system works. the system works for the people. They are seeing it physically. Here, the system doesn't work. These are the two differences.
And so getting it to work are concerns. Yeah, Dr. Lisa, let me come to the to the audience now. Let us be participatory about it. And we're talking about constitutional and electoral reforms, and of course the National Assembly to get on with the electoral bill. That is the first sitting of 2021. That's talking about the new quarter. And Anambra State, where we can test run some of these reforms. We come over to you on numbers 081 40,989, 081 40,989, or 070 87 989, 070 87 989. Taking your calls now. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Tony.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's Luca Adams speaking from Morabarido.
Okay, Luca Adams, let's hear you.
In fact, your guest has spoken. What is really happening in this country with regards to electoral process, I think is disheartening. For instance, if you look at Angwamboro stroke and Angwampama, when you add them together, both in size and population, more than Tudumuda. Here you find out the number of polling stations in Tudumuda, in fact, triple those in Angwamboro and Angwampama. We have only 2 polling units in Angwampama stroke and Angwamboro. So imagine the population there. That is one. 2, ultimately, the system, this political system, is too costly for Nigeria. And this Nigeria should look for a way to reduce the cost, because most of our members at National Assembly are even recharged at their constituency. How do they get that money? In fact, the whole system is costly, and at least Nigerians will find a way of reducing. We either go back to parliamentary system, or we evoke the totality of the system of America, where an electoral college is being introduced. I think that will also at least reduce the cost of all this electoral process. Thirdly, I don't know why we are still using the 1991 population census in our political process today. We had a census in 2006. Then why are we still using that in 1991? At least there are areas that are more populated than before that 1991, yet they are still being counted as 1991. So I think all these things should be corrected. Okay. So I raise my case. Have a nice day.
Okay, Luca, thank you. Dr. Yunusa, you had Luca there.
Yes, I did. And that is why we are saying that the Delineation Commission should be enacted in such a way to take care of this particular issue of population growth and the area. When the National Assembly work on this electoral act, the National Population Commission, the Boundary Commission, the Statistical Bureau, should all of them work together, taking some of their best to look at all of how to make sure that there is they enacted this particular delineation that will take care of the voting point. And besides, 2 things. One thing again, the other area of registration of voting, wherever you register, you can vote, and your vote will reflect to the area in which you want to. So you don't need to move so much from one point to another. We should look at those particular possibility of doing that.
Okay, still with your calls. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Antonio.
Good morning.
Yes, I greet you. I guess my name is Mufabala.
All right.
Yeah. Honestly, we changing of our electoral reforms is something that I will consider to be dynamic. And what I want the voting authority and the media, most especially, is to please continue sensitizing the public on new provisions of the law. And also, maybe if the National Assembly or whoever is responsible for the reforms, maybe they can get input from the people. For example, I may like to suggest that whenever a politician is having a serious corrupt case before a court of law, that politician should not be allowed to contest any election. because it's a double standard. You are being accused of corruption, and you are still being allowed to contest an election. And that money that you have been accused of looting, for example, is free within your hand to do whatever you like. And at the same time, we have to be very clear that, okay, whenever a politician probably committed an offense that is very grievous, we need a law that can even ban him for life. Well, so long we allow politicians to be doing things and go free, I'm very sure we'll be going front and back, just as the way against says that the system is not working. So whatever law you put in place, if there are no proper action and punishment so that it will serve as a deterrent to others who will help the country, we will keep repeating the same mistakes, and at the same time, we may not go to where we want to go. May God continue to bless Nigeria, bless us with good leaders, and distance us from corrupt politicians and their agents. Good morning.
Thank you, Musa Bala. Dr. Insa?
Yeah, you can hear the tone. The fact is that if you keep on enhancing and giving credence to those who have caused mayhem to the system, and then you still expect them to still continue to be in a position of power, there cannot be an improvement. At least a certain a number of years should serve as a punishment that you look, since you have done this, we've given you opportunity, keep away for maybe 6 months, keep away for 1 year, keep away for 2 years. You know that it's different. You know that's a punishment. So in that case, you'll be running away from committing crime and, impugning on the system that was supposed to make the country great. I think that's the punishment which the enforcement agency that we suggest should look into. If they put it into the Electoral Act and then unbundle INEC, it will help in strengthening our democracy.
Okay, still, I could take this call, squeeze in this one. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes.
Hello.
Good morning.
My name is Adameri.
Name is what?
My name is Adameri.
Adameri. Let's hear you.
Yes. The cost of election in Nigeria is too high. And these are my suggestions. Are you there?
Please speak on.
Hello?
Speak on, please.
Are you hearing?
Go on.
I say these are my suggestions. Number one, we should have one National Assembly chamber, so the Senate should be closed, so that we only have House of Representatives. Number two, I want the presidency to appoint only not more than 30 ministers. Are you here? Number three, I want electronic transmission of elections, just like your resource person was saying. When you do voting and one is added to a candidate, it should be showing clearly right on the screen or on the net or whatever source you are using, so that everybody knows how the election goes, and the election results should be transmitted electronically. Elections are concluded at the polling booth. We should never allow court to determine for us who wins an election. And the law should be made in the first 6 months of 2021 to ensure this. We must have electronic transmission of votes, so that an election is known from the polling booth, not even from the collation center or whatever it is called.
Okay.
And number four, I want the appointment of INEC chairman to be removed from presidency. It is a major source of corruption, and we have seen that. You keep appointing those that will draw your will. Buhari has done worse in that area. Electoral commissioners, electoral commissioner, he was even appointing one from his in-law and all that. So if we don't allow a judicious appointment of electoral commissioners, including the INEC chairman, that should be taken from political room. Maybe let's take it to the judiciary or some other place, so that we have an initial initial burden of failure removed totally from the beginning. Thank you.
Adamere, we got to that. Let me just go straight. Dr. Yusa, you had Adamere there, and you said to conclude for us.
Yes, I did. He supported the idea of the electoral voting system and the election of INEC chairman and the rest of them. That means to tell you that people are already aware and they are agitated and they want these things being done. So the demand gone beyond an individual demand, is a collective demand on the National Assembly to do these things that are right, which they too are very, very aware of. So for us, it's a clarion call to the National Assembly as an opportunity for them to put another better cap on their head, where the people will be happy that they voted for them and they're representing us very, very well at the National Assembly by enacting laws that will enhance and strengthen our institution for the betterment of the people and the country in general.
Dr. Yusuf Tanko, would like to thank you for coming on the show this morning.
God bless you and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you. And as said on the program Perspectives this morning, we're looking at constitutional and electoral reforms. And of course, the call by the National Conscience Party to have the National Assembly to pass electoral bill at first sitting of 2021, and they use Anambra State, where we'll be having another elections coming up, as a state to test run these reforms. Dr. Eunice Utanku, National Chairman of National Conscience Party and a presidential candidate in the last election, has been my guest. Dashin, thank you for connecting me with the people, and of course, pictures too, with wisdom, doing that for us. We'll come back with Perspectives tomorrow. Good morning.